Ambassador Min-jun Park stood in the center of the Great Hall. Around him, representatives from 47 different worlds sat in curved rows that rose up like a giant bowl. The ceiling above showed the stars of known space, each one marking a world that belonged to the Galactic Council. Min-jun had practiced his speech many times. Today was important. Humanity had been part of the Council for only 3 years. Many species still saw humans as newcomers who did not understand how things worked in the galaxy. The speaker's voice echoed through the hall. The Council recognizes Ambassador Park of Earth. Min-jun walked to the speaking platform. His steps were quiet on the smooth floor. He carried a small device that would show his presentation to all the delegates. "Thank you, honored speaker," Min-jun said. His voice was calm and clear. "I come before you today to present the Harmony Initiative." He pressed a button on his device. Images appeared in the air above the platform. They showed star maps, trade routes, and areas where pirates had been attacking ships. For the past year, pirate attacks have increased by 40%, Min-jun said. They strike trade ships, steal cargo, and disappear into dark space. Many species have lost valuable resources and good people. The hall was quiet. Some delegates leaned forward in their seats. Others looked bored. "The current approach is not working," Min-jun continued. "Each species fights the pirates alone. We chase them from one system to another. When one species drives them away, they simply attack somewhere else." Counselor Vex Thara of the Zelanti made a sound that might have been a laugh. Her blue skin seemed to glow brighter when she was amused. Next to her, Speaker Korth of the Bruthans shifted his massive body in his chair. His thick arms crossed over his chest. Min-jun did not let their reactions stop him. Humanity proposes a different way. Instead of fighting separately, we should work together. We can share information about pirate movements. We can coordinate our patrol routes. We can create safe zones where merchant ships can travel without fear. He showed new images. These displayed how ships from different species could work together, how information could be shared quickly across the galaxy, how combined fleets could cover more space than single ships flying alone. "Humans offer our skills in crisis management and adaptive logistics," Min-jun said. "We have experience in organizing complex operations. With limited resources, we can help coordinate supply lines and communication networks." Elder Senna of the Ashians nodded slowly. Her ancient face showed interest. The Corellians whispered among themselves, which was usually a good sign. But other reactions were not so positive. The Zarathi delegate's metal face showed no expression, but his head turned away from the presentation. The Bruthan speaker Korth made a sound deep in his throat that sounded like disgust. "This plan requires trust," Min-jun said. "It requires us to see beyond our individual worlds and think about the good of all species. Humans believe this is possible. We believe that working together makes us all stronger." He paused and looked around the hall. Some faces showed interest. Others showed doubt. A few showed something that looked like mockery. "The pirates succeed because they know we fight alone," Min-jun said. "They know that when they attack Ashian ships, only Ashians will chase them. When they attack Corellian cargo, only Corellians will respond. But if they knew that attacking any ship would bring the combined might of all our fleets, would they be so bold?" Vex Thara leaned over to whisper something to the delegate next to her. Both of them seemed to find it funny. "Humanity does not ask to lead this effort," Min-jun said. "We only ask to be part of it. We offer our ideas and our help. We believe that 47 species working together can solve problems that no single species can handle alone." The presentation ended. Min-jun stood quietly as the images faded away. The speaker rose from his great chair. "The Council thanks Ambassador Park for his presentation. We will discuss this proposal in tomorrow's session. All delegates may present their views at that time." Min-jun bowed slightly. "Thank you, honored speaker. Humanity looks forward to a productive discussion. As the session ended, delegates began to leave their seats. Some groups gathered to talk in quiet voices. Min Jun collected his device and walked toward the exit. Dr. Sarah Chen, his cultural advisor, met him near the door. Her face showed concern. "How do you think it went?" she asked quietly. Min Jun watched the other delegates. Many of them were looking at the human delegation and talking among themselves. Some of those looks were not friendly. "We presented our ideas clearly," he said. "Now, we wait to see how the council responds." Captain Yuki Tanaka joined them as they walked through the corridors of Nexus Prime. Her military uniform looked simple compared to the elaborate clothes of other species representatives. "The Bruthans did not look impressed," she said. "Neither did the Zelanti." "The Ashians seemed interested," Sarah replied. "And the Corellians were discussing it seriously." They reached the human diplomatic quarters. The rooms were smaller than those given to older council members, but they were comfortable enough. Min Jun sat down at his desk and began writing his report to Earth. He would tell his government about the presentation and the reactions he had observed. Tomorrow would bring the real test. Tomorrow, the council would debate whether humanity's ideas had any value. Through his window, he could see the stars. Somewhere among them, pirates were planning their next attacks. Somewhere, merchant crews were dying because the galaxy could not work together. Tomorrow, he would find out if the Galactic Council was ready to change, or if they would continue to let pride and old habits keep them from working toward a better future for all species. The stars seemed very far away. The Great Hall buzzed with voices as delegates took their seats. Min Jun Park sat with the human delegation, in their assigned section. Around them, representatives from the galaxy's most powerful species prepared for the debate. The speaker called for order. "Today, we discuss the human proposal known as the Harmony Initiative. We will hear arguments for and against this plan. Councillor Vex Thara of the Zelanti has requested to speak first." Vex Thara rose gracefully. Her blue skin seemed to glow as she moved to the speaking platform. Her voice carried clearly through the hall. Cap'n Gound, honored delegates," she began. "We must consider carefully what we heard yesterday. The humans speak of cooperation and trust. These are noble words, but we must ask ourselves, are we ready to place our security in the hands of a species that has barely learned to leave their own star system?" A few chuckles came from the Zerathi section. Speaker Korth of the Bruthans leaned forward with interest. "The humans call themselves experts in crisis management." Vexthara continued. "But what crises have they managed? They have been in space for less than 200 years. Their longest war lasted only 6 years. They speak of coordination, but their own world is still divided into separate nations." The chuckling grew louder. Vex's Thera smiled, encouraged by the response. "Look at their military record," she said. "They fight with chemical explosives and metal projectiles. Their ships are slow and clumsy. Their weapons are crude. They want to coordinate our fleets? They barely understand how our technology works." Speaker Korth stood up. His massive frame towered over other delegates. "The Bruthan Confederation agrees with our Zelanti friends. How can a species that still uses gunpowder teach us about warfare? Our ancestors were conquering star systems when humans were still living in caves." Laughter rippled through several sections of the hall. The Zerathi delegate's mechanical voice added, "Our analysis confirms that human technology is at least 3 centuries behind galactic standards. Their proposals show a fundamental misunderstanding of space combat and logistics." Vexthera nodded. "The humans speak beautifully about working together, but they are children playing with toys they do not understand. Would you ask a child to design your starship? Would you let someone who has never seen an ocean captain your fleet?" The laughter was spreading now. Even some of the neutral species seemed amused by the comparisons. Their so-called crisis management consists of throwing resources at problems until they go away, Vex Thera said. They call this efficiency. We call it waste. They want to share information? What information could they possibly have that we need? A Zarathi delegate spoke up without waiting for recognition. Their star charts are incomplete. Their sensor technology cannot detect ships at standard operational ranges. They would be more likely to hide our fleets from ourselves than from pirates. More laughter filled the hall. Some delegates were openly pointing at the human section and making jokes in their own languages. Vex Thara raised her voice over the noise. The humans want us to trust them with our ships, our crews, our safety. Earth still has over 200 separate governments. They argue about everything from trade to territory. And they want to coordinate 47 different species? Speaker Korth's deep voice boomed across the hall. Perhaps we should ask them to solve their own problems first. When Earth has one government and one voice, then maybe they can teach us about cooperation. The hall erupted in laughter. Delegates were slapping their chairs and making comments to their neighbors. Some species that usually remained neutral were smiling and shaking their heads. I do not wish to be harsh, Vex Thara said, though her tone suggested she was enjoying herself. The humans mean well. They are young and eager to help. But meaning well is not enough when lives are at stake. We cannot trust the galaxy's security to good intentions and primitive technology. She paused, looking directly at Minjun Park. He sat quietly, his hands folded in his lap, his face showing no expression. The humans should focus on learning, she continued. Let them watch how advanced species handle real problems. Let them see how we coordinate our fleets and share information. In another century or two, perhaps they will be ready to contribute something meaningful. The applause was loud and long. Many delegates stood up to show their approval. Vex Thara returned to her seat with obvious satisfaction. The speaker looked toward the human section. Does Ambassador Park wish to respond to these concerns? Minjun stood slowly. The hall became quieter, but whispers and small laughs continued. He walked to the platform with steady steps. He stood at the podium for a moment, looking out at the assembled delegates. The hall fell completely silent. Thank you, Counselor Vex Thera, for your detailed analysis of human capabilities, he said. His voice was calm and clear. The human delegation appreciates the time and effort you put into studying our proposal. He paused again. Some delegates leaned forward, expecting an argument or defense. After careful consideration of the Council's response, Minjun continued. Humanity withdraws the Harmony Initiative from consideration at this time. Surprised murmurs ran through the hall. This was not what anyone expected. We thank the Council for listening to our ideas, Minjun said. We understand that our approach may not be suitable for current galactic needs. He gathered his presentation device and bowed slightly to the speaker. That concludes humanity's participation in today's session. Minjun walked back to his seat. The human delegation rose together. They collected their materials quietly and efficiently. Dr. Sarah Chen and Captain Yuki Tanaka flanked Minjun as they moved toward the exit. The hall watched in stunned silence as the humans filed out. No angry words, no accusations, no hurt feelings or wounded pride. They simply left. The great doors closed behind them with a soft sound. Speaker Korth looked confused. That was unexpected. Vex Thara frowned. They gave up rather easily. Elder Senna of the Ashians watched the closed doors thoughtfully. Something about the humans' quiet exit troubled her, though she could not say exactly what. The speaker cleared his throat. Well then, we move to the next item on today's agenda. The council continued with its business as if nothing unusual had happened. Elder Senna noticed it first. The human delegation no longer attended the morning briefings on Nexus Prime. Their seats in the secondary council chambers remained empty during committee meetings. When she asked about it, the station administrator told her that Ambassador Park had requested minimal participation status. "What does that mean exactly?" Senna asked. "They attend only mandatory full council sessions," the administrator explained. "No voluntary committees. No working groups. No social functions." Senna found this strange. Most species used every opportunity to build relationships and influence within the council. The humans had gone from active participation to bare minimum attendance. In the corridors of Nexus Prime, Senna sometimes saw Min-Jun Park or his staff. They were always polite when greeted, always professional. But there was something different about their manner. They responded to questions with correct answers, and nothing more. They attended meetings, listened carefully, and rarely spoke, unless directly asked. Counselor Vexthara noticed the change too, but she interpreted it differently. "The humans are sulking," she told her aide. "Like children who did not get their way. This proves my point about their immaturity." Speaker Korth agreed. "At least they know their place now. Perhaps this embarrassment taught them something useful." But the changes went deeper than council politics. Human trade representatives stopped proposing new agreements. Existing contracts were honored perfectly, but no new business was discussed. When other species suggested expanded trade relationships, humans gave polite responses about reviewing possibilities that never led to actual negotiations. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the Corellian trade minister, found this puzzling. Humans had been enthusiastic trading partners before the council incident. Their goods were reliable, and their prices were fair. Now they seemed distant and uninterested. "Has something changed in human economic policy?" she asked Ambassador Park during a brief meeting. "No significant changes," Park replied. "We continue to honor all existing agreements. But what about new opportunities? We discussed expanding agricultural exchanges." "Those discussions are under review," Park said. "We will contact you when we have more information." The conversation ended there. Vasquez left feeling like she had spoken to a different person entirely. Similar conversations happened across the galaxy. Human research scientists stopped collaborating on joint projects. They completed work already in progress, but declined to start new studies. University exchanges ended quietly. Scientific conferences that had included human participants found their applications withdrawn, without explanation. The Ashian Science Council had particularly valued working with humans. Human researchers brought creative approaches to old problems. They asked questions that other species never thought to ask. Now their laboratories felt empty without human colleagues. Captain Yuki Tanaka recalled all human ships from joint patrol duties. The official reason was fleet reorganization. But other military commanders noticed that human vessels stopped appearing at coordination meetings. They no longer participated in training exercises or shared sensor data from their patrol routes. This worried some of the more thoughtful military leaders. Human ships had proven surprisingly effective during joint operations. They used unusual tactics and showed remarkable ability to adapt quickly to changing situations. Commander Thex of the Corellian Navy tried to maintain contact with Captain Tanaka. They had worked well together during anti-piracy operations in the Outer Rim. "Your ships were scheduled for next month's exercises in the Deneb sector," Thex said during a communication call. "We have withdrawn from those exercises," Tanaka replied. "Our ships are needed for other duties." "What other duties? Is there some threat we should know about?" "Nothing that requires council attention," Tanaka said politely. "We are handling internal matters." The call ended with Thex feeling frustrated and confused. Internal matters? What internal matters required all of humanity's ships? Elder Senna tried to reach out to the human delegation directly. She visited their quarters on Nexus Prime and requested a private meeting with Ambassador Park. Park received her courteously in a small conference room. He served excellent tea and asked about her health with apparent, genuine interest. "I wanted to discuss the recent changes in human participation," Senna said carefully. What changes? Park asked. We continue to fulfill all our obligations to the Council. Yes, but you seem distant, less engaged than before. Park's expression remained neutral. We are evaluating our priorities and commitments. This requires careful consideration. Are you reconsidering Council membership? Not at all. Humanity values its place in the galactic community. Senna tried a different approach. Some species are concerned that humans feel unwelcome after the debate about your proposal. The Council's response to our proposal was very educational, Park said. We learned much about galactic perspectives on cooperation and security. His tone remained perfectly polite, but something in his eyes made Senna uncomfortable. She had the feeling that she was missing something important. Meanwhile, in human space, changes were happening that the Council knew nothing about. Trade routes that had connected human colonies to Council worlds were being quietly redirected. New trading partners from outside Council space began appearing at human stations. Human colonies that had relied on Council protection services started installing their own defense systems. These systems were surprisingly sophisticated for a species that supposedly used primitive technology. The first test came when pirates attacked the human colony on Kepler 442b. It was a farming world with a population of 2 million humans. The pirates had studied it for months and knew it had no significant military presence. A fleet of 12 pirate ships dropped out of hyperspace near the colony. Their leader sent the usual demand message: surrender all valuable cargo or face destruction. They expected the human colonists to call for help from the Council. They expected fear and panic and desperate negotiations for time. Instead, they received silence. The pirates waited for an hour. Then, 2 hours. Finally, frustrated by the lack of response, they moved toward the planet to begin their attack. That was when they discovered that silence could be more dangerous than threats. Elder Senna was reviewing trade reports in her office when an urgent message arrived from the Outer Rim monitoring station. Pirates had attacked human territory. Ships were dispatched to provide assistance, but they found something unexpected. The pirate fleet had been completely destroyed. There was no trace of human military vessels at the battle site. No debris from human ships. No signs of the fierce battle that should have left both sides damaged. Just the scattered remains of 12 pirate ships and the silent human colony continuing its daily work as if nothing had happened. The Council would soon learn that humanity's silence had been more than wounded pride. It had been preparation. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened within hours of the first reports. Representatives filled the Great Hall with worried voices and confused questions. Elder Senna sat with growing concern as the details emerged. Speaker Korth stood at the podium, reading from official reports. At 0347 Galactic Standard Time, 12 pirate vessels attacked the human agricultural colony of Kepler 442b. The attack was detected by our monitoring stations in the Outer Rim. He paused, looking around the hall. When our patrol ships arrived to provide assistance, they found the complete destruction of the attacking fleet. No human casualties were reported. No human military vessels were detected in the area. Counselor Vex Thara leaned forward in her seat. How is that possible? Human colonies have minimal defense systems. Their technology cannot match pirate warships. That is what we believed, Korth replied. But the evidence suggests otherwise. Commander Thex of the Corellian Navy had examined the battle site personally. His report painted a disturbing picture. The pirate ships were destroyed with surgical precision, he said. Energy weapon strikes to critical systems only. No wasted shots. No collateral damage to the surrounding space. Whatever attacked them knew exactly where to hit for maximum effectiveness. The hall buzzed with concerned whispers. This did not match what anyone knew about human military capabilities. Could another species have intervened? Asked the Zerathi delegate. No. Thex replied. We monitored all traffic in that sector. No ships from any council species were in the area. Long-range sensors detected no vessels approaching or leaving the system. Elder Senna felt a chill of understanding. What about short-range sensors? Could ships have been present, but undetected? Only if they possessed stealth technology far beyond current galactic standards, Thex admitted reluctantly. The implications hung heavy in the air. Either another unknown force was operating in the galaxy, or humanity possessed capabilities they had never revealed. The mystery deepened over the following days. More pirate attacks targeted human settlements across 3 different sectors. Each attack followed the same pattern. Pirates approached confidently, faced no apparent resistance, and were completely destroyed without any visible human response. Security footage from the 4th attack finally provided answers, though they raised even more questions. The recording showed a typical pirate assault on a human mining station. 8 pirate vessels approached in standard formation. They sent their demands and prepared to attack. Then space itself seemed to shimmer. Human ships appeared from nowhere, not approaching from a distance, simply materializing as if they had been invisible. Their design was unlike anything in the Council databases. Sleek, angular vessels that moved with impossible grace. The battle lasted exactly 4 minutes and 17 seconds. Human weapons fired with perfect accuracy. Each shot disabled specific systems without destroying entire ships. Pirate vessels lost power, weapons, and engines in precisely calculated strikes. When the pirates tried to surrender, their ships were towed away by human vessels. Then the human fleet vanished as suddenly as it had appeared. The mining station resumed operations without interruption. The recording was analyzed by the best military experts in Council space. Their conclusions were unanimous and troubling. Human technology is at least 50 years ahead of our most advanced systems, reported the Bruthan military analyst. Their stealth capabilities make our sensors useless. Their weapons show precision that should be impossible at combat ranges. Commander Thex studied the tactical analysis with growing amazement. They disabled 8 ships without destroying a single one. That requires perfect knowledge of every different ship design and exactly where to hit them. The computing power alone. Counselor Vex Thera sat in stunned silence as the evidence mounted. Everything she had said about human primitiveness was being proven wrong by hard data. But the most disturbing discovery came from economic analysis. The Ashayan Trade Ministry had noticed significant changes in galactic commerce patterns over recent months. Human trade volume has decreased by 30% with Council species, reported Minister Kala. But their overall trade appears to be increasing. They are dealing with species outside our territory. Elder Senna requested detailed records. What she found changed her understanding of humanity's position in the galaxy. Humans had established trade relationships with over 24 non-Council species. Worlds that the Council barely knew existed were now major trading partners with humanity. Advanced technologies were being exchanged. Scientific knowledge was flowing freely. They have built an entire parallel network, Senna realized. While we were dismissing them as primitives, they were creating their own alliances. The scope of human activity became clear when intelligence reports arrived from distant sectors. Human colonies existed far beyond the borders they had claimed to the Council. Their population was 3 times larger than official records indicated. Their industrial capacity could support fleets much larger than anyone had imagined. Most shocking of all, humans had been providing security services to dozens of smaller species for years. Pirates avoided entire sectors of space because human patrols made attacks impossible. They were managing the pirate crisis without us, Korth said slowly. While we debated their proposal, they were already implementing their own solution. The final piece of the puzzle arrived in a formal diplomatic message from Ambassador Park. It was brief and polite. Humanity acknowledges the Council's concern about recent events in our territory. We wish to assure our colleagues that these incidents do not threaten galactic stability. Human security forces have addressed the immediate problems. No Council assistance is required. The message was signed with perfect diplomatic courtesy. It said nothing about stealth fleets, or hidden colonies, or alternative trade networks. It simply acknowledged that humanity had handled the situation alone. Elder Senna stared at the message for a long time. She finally understood what had happened in the Great Hall months ago. Humanity had not withdrawn their proposal because it was rejected. They had withdrawn it because the Council had proven unworthy of the offer. Humans had come to the Council seeking partners. They had found arrogance and mockery instead, so they had quietly built their own partnerships elsewhere. "What do we do now?" asked Minister Kala. Senna thought about the economic reports, the military analysis, and the diplomatic implications. Humanity was no longer asking for the Council's acceptance. They no longer needed the Council's protection, or trade, or technology. The Council needed them. "We learn humility," Senna said quietly, "and we hope it is not too late to earn their respect." Outside her window, the stars seemed different now. Each point of light might hide human ships that could appear and disappear at will. Each system might contain human colonies that the Council had never known existed. The galaxy had become a much larger and more complicated place than anyone had realized. Elder Senna stood outside the human diplomatic quarters, holding a formal invitation written on Ashayan silk paper. She had spent 3 days crafting the words, trying to find the right balance between respect and genuine apology. The door opened before she could press the call button. Ambassador Minjun Park stood there, dressed in simple black clothing that somehow made him look more dignified than the elaborate robes worn by other delegates. "Elder Senna," he said with a slight bow, "how may I help you?" "I come bearing an invitation from the Council," she said, offering the silk paper. "We request your presence at a special session to discuss recent developments." Park accepted the invitation, but did not open it immediately. "What kind of developments?" "The pirate situations in human space. The Council wishes to better understand these events." Park's expression remained neutral. "I see. And what does the Council hope to achieve through this understanding?" Senna had expected this question, but it still made her uncomfortable. "We have realized that our previous assessment of human capabilities may have been incomplete." "Incomplete," Park repeated quietly. "That is an interesting way to phrase it." He opened the invitation and read it carefully. Senna watched his face for any reaction, but found none. "The Council requests my presence in 3 days," Park said. "Very formal language. Very proper protocols. Yes. We wanted to ensure appropriate respect was shown." Park looked up from the invitation. "Respect is indeed important, Elder Senna. It forms the foundation of all meaningful relationships." Something in his tone made Senna feel like she was being tested. "Will you attend?" "And, of course, humanity honors its commitments to the Council." 3 days later, the Great Hall was fuller than it had been in months. Representatives from all 47 member species had gathered for the special session. Many delegates who usually sent subordinates attended personally. When Ambassador Park entered with his small delegation, the hall fell silent. He walked to the human section, with the same steady pace he had always used. Dr. Sarah Chen and Captain Yuki Tanaka flanked him, their faces showing professional calm. The speaker called the session to order. "We have gathered to discuss recent events involving human security operations. The Council seeks to understand the scope and nature of these activities." Elder Senna rose to speak first. "The Council acknowledges that our understanding of human capabilities was based on incomplete information. We wish to express our respect for humanity's effective response to pirate threats." Polite applause filled the hall, but it sounded forced and uncomfortable. Councillor Vexi Thara stood next. Her blue skin had lost some of its usual glow. "The Zelanti Confederation wishes to clarify our previous statements regarding human military competence. Recent evidence suggests our analysis was flawed." More uncomfortable applause. Several delegates shifted in their seats. Speaker Korth rose with obvious reluctance. His massive frame seemed smaller somehow. The Bruthan forces acknowledge human tactical superiority in recent engagements. We request information sharing on effective anti-piracy strategies. The pattern continued around the hall. Species after species offered carefully worded apologies and requests for cooperation. The language was diplomatic, but the message was clear. They wanted access to human capabilities they had previously dismissed. Finally, the speaker looked toward the human section. Ambassador Park, the Council would welcome your response to these statements. Minjun stood slowly. He walked to the speaking platform without any notes or presentation devices. The hall watched him, with nervous attention. Thank you, honored speaker, he began. I appreciate the Council's interest in recent security developments. He paused, looking around the hall with calm eyes. The pirate attacks on human territory were indeed handled by human security forces. We protected our people and our property using methods we found effective. Another pause. The silence stretched uncomfortably. The Council asks about the scope of these operations. Human security forces protect human interests throughout our territory. This includes colonies, trade routes, and allied worlds that have requested our assistance. Murmurs ran through the hall. Allied worlds? How many allies did humanity have? The Council asks about sharing information and strategies. Park continued. Humanity is willing to cooperate with species who approach us as equals and partners. Vexus Thara leaned forward. What does that mean exactly? Park's gaze found her across the hall. It means that cooperation requires mutual respect, Counselor. It means that those who wish to work with us must value our contributions rather than mock them. The hall fell silent. The reference to the earlier council session was unmistakable. Humanity learned much from our previous interaction with this council, Park said. We learned that good intentions and sincere offers of cooperation are not always valued. We learned that some species prefer to work with those they consider equals rather than those they see as inferiors. Elder Senna felt heat rise in her face. This was not the response they had hoped for. So, we found other partners, Park continued. Species who valued cooperation over competition. Worlds that needed assistance rather than demanded submission. Organizations that measured worth by actions rather than age or tradition. He looked directly at Speaker Korth. The Council wondered why we withdrew our proposal so quickly. The answer is simple. We realized we were offering partnership to those who wanted servants. Korth's face darkened, but he remained silent. Humanity does not seek to dominate other species, Park said. We do not wish to prove our superiority through conquest or intimidation. We simply want to work alongside others who share our values of cooperation and mutual benefit. The hall remained completely quiet. The Council has expressed interest in working with us now, Park said. This interest appears to be based on a revised understanding of human capabilities. We appreciate this recognition, but we must ask, what has really changed? He let the question hang in the air. Have our methods changed? No. They are the same methods we proposed months ago. Has our technology improved? No. We simply stopped hiding our true capabilities. Has our commitment to cooperation weakened? No. We remain committed to working with true partners. Park's voice remained calm throughout, but his words cut deep. What has changed is the Council's perception of human value. When you believed we were weak, our offers of partnership were amusing. Now that you know we are strong, those same offers seem attractive. Vexthara spoke without standing. What do you want from us, Ambassador? Park smiled slightly. It was not an entirely pleasant expression. Nothing, Counselor. Humanity wants nothing from this council that we cannot obtain elsewhere. The words sent a chill through the hall. However, Park continued, we are willing to offer something to the council. We will share our anti-piracy methods with any species that request them. We will coordinate joint operations with forces that follow our protocols. We will consider trade agreements and scientific exchanges with governments that approach us respectfully." He paused again. "But we will do this as partners, not as junior members seeking approval. We will be consulted on policies that affect us, not simply informed of decisions made without us. We will be treated as equals in all discussions, not as students learning from their betters." The silence stretched long after Park finished speaking. Finally, Elder Senna stood. "What you describe sounds like senior member status within the council structure. If that is what the council chooses to call it," Park replied. "Humanity cares less about titles than about actual treatment." Speaker Korth cleared his throat. "The council would need to vote on such a change in status." "Of course," Park said. "Humanity will await the results of that vote with interest." He returned to his seat without another word. The vote was held the following day. It passed unanimously. Humanity's Harmony Initiative was formally adopted 3 months later. Implemented exactly as originally proposed. Pirate attacks decreased by 80% within the first year. Elder Senna often thought about that day as she watched human and council ships working together in joint patrols. The galaxy had learned an important lesson about the difference between strength and weakness, between confidence and arrogance. Sometimes the strongest response to mockery was simply to walk away in silence and let actions speak instead of words. The pirates had learned that lesson too late to save themselves. The council had learned it just in time to save their future.